Hi, everybody. My name is Scott T. Henson. I am a filmmaker and actor who had the pleasure of having a film out on film in 2018. And this year, I had the distinct pleasure of being on the programming committee for the festival. This is the first year that we are a hybrid festival. We've got screenings in person in theaters, and we've also got screenings virtually online. So however you're attending the festival this year, we thank you so much for being here. We are so pleased to have you with us. And today it is my distinct and exciting pleasure to be able to have a conversation with the co-writer, producer, director, and lead actor of our world premiere film, Down in Paris, Mr. Antony Hickling, who is joining us from Paris. Hi, Antony. It is such a
Hi.
pleasure to meet you. How are you?
I'm really well. Thank you for inviting me. I want to say a big thank you to Out on Film for allowing the film to be part of the festival. But I'm great. Thank you. I hope you are too.
Well, it is a wonderful film. I've seen it twice already, and I think that the audience is in for an absolute treat with your picture. I want to talk a little bit about you to start. You were born in South Africa, raised and educated at a theater school in Manchester, and then you moved to London to pursue an acting career. How did you get from London actor to Parisian filmmaker? That's a story in itself, I think.
Okay, so in a nutshell, I did move from drama school. Straight after drama school, I got a job. I actually got a job to play a monkey in a Roald Dahl play at the Parisian Theatre. What I didn't realize, I would have the whole cat suit and all the rest with the tail. Anyway, that's another story. Anyway, I moved to London, worked in the theatre, and then I met a guy, a French guy. And that's all really explains everything.
And there it is.
Say no more. And then actually, we were together for many years, actually, but he went back to France. His contract sort of came up in London. He moved back to France, and then I ended up just following him. And then, to be honest, how did I then, because I didn't speak French. So I learned French. And then we eventually split up. We were together about 13 years, and we split up, and I went back to uni to do my master's degree
in Paris.
And then I was invited to do my doctorate by the uni. So I was there for 7 years. And then during that time at uni.
Was this in Paris?
This is now in Paris. Mm-hmm. I was still working on queer arts, and it's something that I'd already started at university in Manchester. I continued that work on Derek Jarman and such like, and started creating performance art pieces. And these performance art pieces, which I'd actually started also in Manchester many years before, I started filming. And then I was still, while I was at uni, still working as an actor, doing voiceover and stuff in English. And then started filming my art pieces, if you like, which sometimes I was in, sometimes I wasn't. And little by little by little by little, these became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I did do a short spurt in a film school after uni, just to really get some sort of technical skills and confidence in filmmaking, because I wasn't a filmmaker. And then it went from there, and that was like 10 years ago.
I think you were a filmmaker, you just didn't know it yet.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. That's what I think too.
So the character that you play in the film, Richard, tell us a little bit about where he starts, where he ends up, and what he learns getting from point A to point B.
Oh, gosh.
And that's a big question given this film, but I'm curious to see what you have to say.
I don't know if it's really for me to say or to decide. On a personal level, and I'm not sure I actually know, but on a personal level, he goes from quite a dark place. And I wanted in a sort of very simplistic way through the film, this dark, unexplained place, which is the opening of the film, to be revealed, but to be revealed in a sort of very almost simple, slight, delicate way that just, originally, I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but originally I wasn't meant to play the role. I hadn't planned to play the role.
Oh,
I didn't
interesting.
Write it to play the role. I've never played a role. I've done like little bit parts in my own films. I've never wanted to. So this then came about later on in the process, but I wanted, so the character starts in a dark place, and then we reveal what this dark place is about, and then moves towards the light, if you like, moves from sort of a darkness to light, to joy, to sort of refinding the will to continue, and also related to my age, related to my experience, which was linked to the writing of it, the creation of it. But for the rest, I don't really know. But I just know that and just to give you a clue about the beginning, the very beginning of the movie was influenced by a shoot that I did on another movie called Where Horses Go to Die, which was so, I mean, there were like 50 people on set sometimes. It was so much work.
And you were the director of this film? I
was the director of this film, and I thought I was going to have a burnout. I mean, it was really intense. So I took that feeling, that moment, and used it as a starting point for the darkness, if you like. I call it the darkness. I mean, you could call it a midlife crisis, you could call it a crossroads, you could call it an artistic crossroads. I mean, you know, and I think, is it something that's specifically related to someone of my age? Maybe, I don't know. But I think we all go through periods in our lives at different stages whereby we're not sure where we're going, where we are, where we've been, where we want to go, where we want to be. And this is one of those crossroads. But going back to your question, it's going from this questioning, this dark place, towards an understanding or an acceptance and a lighter place, a sort of positive, more positive, joyful place.
So you, co-writer, producer, director, ultimately actor.
Yeah.
It takes a lot here and here to do one of those jobs on a film. You ended up doing all four. What was the fire you had inside of yourself to tell this story? Why did you have to tell this story? Because it clearly had to come out of you.
Well, I think that obviously could be a question that relates to all the films and all the work. And the point is, funnily enough, what should have been, and I'll sort of answer your question, but what should have been one of the hardest experiences, in the sense that I was acting, writing, producing, actually turned out to be one of the easiest experiences. The reason being that I've learned, this is my fifth film. So I've learned through my own filmmaking of how to choose the right people that I want to work with. A lot of them I've already worked with, and some were new, but that is a really important factor. What was it that drove me to tell this story? To be honest, why do we create one particular story and not another? How does it begin? What is the genesis of that? I think ultimately I let that happen without forcing it. I don't necessarily know, for example, what is going to be my next film. I'd actually worked and co-written another movie, which was meant to be my next film, called Racaille, which is like, I'm not sure how to translate that, but anyway, it means sort of ruffian. That was ready to go. And then through budget and for many reasons, it just wasn't going to be possible. So it's like, shit, what am I going to do? You know, because it's not just, oh, I make films because I'm bored. It's a need. It's a
oh, absolutely.
I mean, as you know yourself. So it's like, where do I go from here? And then I was like, I need to create something with not much of a budget. I need to create something more simple. And this idea that I'd had a while ago, I came back to, and then it started to evolve. It started to evolve out of what was initially an idea that I came up with in Mexico. I was at a film festival in Mexico. And then over the years, that idea developed. And I think all my films, the only thing I've got to go from is my own experience, my own feelings, my own way of seeing the world. As an artist, that's really all we have. You can transform that into something else. you transform that into a work of art, you transform that into whatever you transform that into. But we're only, and the starting point for any artist or for anybody, whether it be a business, whether it be a painting, whatever it may be for you, is you. So the stories that came out were within me, yeah. And to be honest, it's funny because I don't, that question is interesting because in actual fact, I don't try. It's the sort of the work that decides. It's like, it's allowing the idea to come, capturing it, being open and aware of, and then letting it evolve. And part of that was, oh shit, I have to play this role. I don't want to play this role particularly, but the work requires me to play this role. The work requires that I show my father on his deathbed. The work and it's like just being attuned to the work. The work then starts to take a life of its own, as it is now. It's being shown. It's almost not part of me anymore. It's off on its own in America, and I'm here in Paris. But I didn't specifically think, shit, I need to tell this story. It's like, okay, what about this idea about this director? We'll get so and so to play the director, and you know, it's a development from an idea that I had in Mexico about a director that goes to Mexico. And he's just split up with his boyfriend, and then from there, it started to come out, and personal stories started to take form in the form of this film. I don't know if that really answers the question, but
no, it does. Absolutely. In a way, it sounds like after a while, the story chose you instead of you choosing the story.
And the story starts to tell itself. You're just a sort of facilitator. You're just, you know, I'm not saying it's some totally out of body experience, but I think in order to create, there has to be some alignment. There has to be some sort of connection or frequency that you find yourself on in order to be creative. I think there's something that happens. I mean, everyone will have their own explanation for that, but that's how I see making the films that I've made, you know, and this one as well.
So what was the experience like for you of directing the picture while being in the picture? And I specifically, if you can, want to talk about one scene, the scene with Samantha, the medium, because that was such an interesting performance. And I was watching her and I was watching you and I was like, how is he being present with her and getting all of what she's giving him, but also stepping out of it enough to direct her at the same time? That was very interesting to me.
Well, to be honest, you've picked the one scene which was probably the one that is slightly out of all the other scenes, in the sense that it was the one scene, because Dominic here is, she's not like a huge star, but she's a household name. And having
honestly, but from my perspective, like as a director and an actor also, I was like, is he in this with her, or is he just kind of awed by her performance and just sort of watching it? It was, I'm sorry, I just had to tell you that because I really wanted to know what was going through your mind during that scene.
I know Dominic. I mean, she's a friend, and I had an idea of what to expect because she works in a particular way. She's a woman of a certain age, of a certain caliber. She's done a lot of films. I mean, she was in the last Larry Clark. She played the mother in the French film that he made. I don't know whether you saw that, but anyway, the point is, with her, I'd said to the team that just film. Because I know that she comes from theatre. She does a lot of theatre. I knew that she would give a lot, well, and also through knowing her, I knew that she would give a lot very quickly, but it wouldn't be in the duration. So with her in particular, as opposed to all the other scenes, you've homed in on the one that was
it's a great scene.
You've got the nose. I focused immediately on her and filming everything. And as a result, we had shots that were like 30 minutes long, which is a hell of a long time, you know, to film. She basically did the whole scene. So it was intense. To be totally honest, it was actually quite it wasn't difficult for me, but in order for her to be the best she could be, even though I knew I wasn't being filmed, I had to give everything. So basically, while she was performing, I was performing, except I knew I wasn't being filmed. But in order for her to feel that she was getting what she needed, I mean, I was in floods of tears. I was on the floor. I mean, it was really intense. We didn't get any of that. So by the time we got to me, I was actually exhausted.
I'm just tired.
I'd given like, so it was particular, that scene, because of who was acting and the way she acts and her style and her work. And as I said, when it got to me, I was literally exhausted, but I tried to use that exhaustion in order to give something else in the scene. But I love that scene as well. And I love her as an actress. There's that sort of, we re-edited and re-edited and re-edited that sequence in particular, because Dominic gives so much, and it's a fine line between, and I love this, madness and sort of, you know, craziness and this sort of very sane. And we edited it several times and it just went down this crazy road. And you can't.
That's a theme with some of the other characters in the film. You've got the guy in the fish and chip shop, or the falafel shop, the guy that you sort of save, and he's nice at first, but then turns out to be kind of a douchebag. And then you've got the guy in the church who starts out as this, the guy with the tattoo, who starts out as sort of this all-knowing, loving, Christ-like figure, but then turns batshit on you and kind of turns into a devil. Can you tell me a little bit about that character? I really had questions about that.
Church.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, hence the little red T-shirt. And I said, I said to the costumière that for me, he's sort of like a devil. It's this devil character. You know, he tempts me in, he lures me in, and then bam, he goes in for the kill. Many people say, and they're probably right, oh, does that character actually exist? It's like, it's actually you, right? I'm like, well, yeah, probably is. However, there was this idea of the devil, of the inner voice, of our own inner voice, of the doubts, the devil, the angel, the sacred being in the church. I mean, there's this whole theme. And as I said, the idea was that he's very gentle at the beginning. He's a very charming, attractive guy, that he lures me in through flattery. He's very sexy. He's very alluring. And then when he's got me, when he's got his hands around my neck, he jumps in and goes into the kill. And then it's too late. But I love, that's actually one of my favorite scenes, actually. I love that scene.
So I want to talk about casting for a second. You have some very interesting actors in this film. Are these people that you knew? Did you go to the casting director and say, I want these kinds of people? Because you have so much going on when you're on set. You have to have people that know what they're doing and aren't going to cause you problems. So where did you get your actors, and what did you look for in them?
To be honest, this is, as I said earlier, this is my 5th film. So I have my own cinematographic family, if you like. Most of the actors, the old guy, most of them have been in my other movies. Like Jean-Christophe Bouvet, the old guy, he's been in, I think he's been in all my movies. Matthias in his apartment, he's been in all my movies. I've known them for many years. Some that I went to drama school, some that I've worked with through doing movies over the last 10 years.
What about Jeffrey Coué?
Jeffrey Coué, yeah. I mean, I never worked with Jeffrey Coué. He'd asked if he could work with me. And then we were at a festival in Malinka, called Malinka in Serbia. And he was on the jury, I was on the jury. And then we sort of got to get to know each other. And then I invited him. I actually, funnily enough, had thought about him as the role of the director in the beginning.
Interesting.
And I'd also thought about Gaetan, who plays the little gay boy in my first movie, Little Gay Boy. Anyway, that's slightly another subject. But the point is, with regards to the casting, I generally always know who I want I write for the people that I want to work with. So I did a few castings, like I did do a casting with Jeffrey Coe because I'd never worked with him before. And because originally I'm an actor, I've been acting for years. So I know, I have an idea about acting, you know? So you very quickly feel who an actor is, what they're capable of. I mean, sometimes you don't necessarily understand totally what they're capable, but you can see very quickly through a casting their agility. Their agility, and also your connection with them. You know, do you connect? Can you direct them? Can you manipulate in the good sense, if you see what I mean? Manipulate in the sense of directing them to, let's try more of this color than that color. Do you know what I mean? You understand, because you're a director. But I generally know who I want to work with, and I know why. And I have a role specifically for that person. So, and that is the case for all my movies up until now.
Would you want to work with yourself as a director if you were the actor?
Well, that's interesting. Actually, I think because I've been an actor for so many years, and this is through working with the same people, you know, we've talked about, and they've talked about, and they've been interviewed about, you know, and I've heard what they said about working with me. And to sort of divert the thing, they've said that because I'm an actor, which you find with director actors, there's an understanding about how an actor works. So I try to be positive. I try to be respectful, and I never ask anyone to do anything. And you'll find this a surprise if ever you get to see any of my other movies, but I never ask anyone to do anything that I would not be prepared to do myself. So, you know, I try to be the best I can be, and I make mistakes and learn. And in dealing with actors, I try to be as respectful and as encouraging. And I'm not the sort of person, because I've been in that experience myself, I'm not the sort of person that is, and some actors respond very well to this, they actually prefer it. They become a tyrant, and you know, it's not good enough, and it's not this, and it somehow boosts them. That on me has the total reverse effect, and I go into my shell and I'm scared to death and I can't act. I need to be around people that encourage, that help, that make you feel supported and loving. So I try to give what I would ask for. So in response to your question, yes, at times have I been a dick? Yes, but I learn. I try to learn from my mistakes and try to grow. And this is why, in all honesty, I'm so proud of this movie, in the sense that it was so easy to make, because I've learned how to bring a group of caring, talented, energetic, but supportive and respectful people together. And as a result, what should have been probably one of the hardest things that I've done so far was actually one of the easiest, because I was surrounded by the right people with the right energy that weren't just giving 40%, they were giving 120% because they believed in the work. And, you know, so in actual fact, I think I could honestly say yes.
Okay. That's an excellent answer. You co-wrote this film. I think there are 3 writers credited on this film. How did you, I could not write with another person. How did that work?
I didn't think I could, but yeah.
How did that work?
Well, to be honest, initially it was, briefly, I decided for the first time that I wanted to co-write something a little bit more traditional or conventional in relation to my last films. I was generally get contacted by people now and again, and there was one guy that's actually a journalist, and he'd written about my movies, and he contacted me and sent me some scenarios and all this. And it was the time when I was looking for someone to work with. And just to cut a long story short, I met him and we talked about his experience and blah, 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 blah. And basically we decided to work together. And then on that road, we'd already basically mapped out what they call a traitement in French. We'd mapped out the sort of basic story without having written the script. And I can't remember how you call that in English, but anyway. And the point is,
it's like a treatment, I think.
Yeah. Oh, do you say treatment? Okay,
I
so
think
traitement
so.
is the same then. Okay. And then at this time, a friend of mine, Raphael, who plays the ex that I have a fight with.
Oh yeah.
That's Raphael.
Okay.
I invited him to just give us a hand with sort of reading what we'd written and, you know, giving some pointers, because I knew he was also a script writer. And then little by little by little, as we started working together, there were a lot of Skypes, a lot of reading what so-and-so had written, discussing it, improving it, going away, meeting again the next week, because basically Pierre lives in another city, so it wasn't practical to meet all the time. And it basically evolved from there, and it actually worked really, really well. We're actually writing another movie together now, but it actually, something that was very surprising, because like yourself, I didn't think I could actually work with or write with anybody else. And I've already made 4 films and I haven't done that. It was actually well, it wasn't much easier, but it was actually much more simple than I imagined it to be. And because there was a synergy between myself and Raphael and Pierre, it worked, you know, it worked as it should, it sort of flowed. So it was a surprising adventure, and it actually was the right thing. It was the right thing for where I'm at right now. I don't think I could have done that 4 years ago. I wouldn't have been able to handle that. I needed to be in my own space. I couldn't have anybody else telling me, whereas I was ready for it. I was ready to change gear, and I was ready to turn the page. And this film for me, I realized, I said earlier, I was going to make a film called Rakai, Ruffian, was meant to be the beginning of a new chapter for me. And I've realized, looking back now with time, that basically Down in Paris is become the bridge between everything that I've done before and this new vein of work that I'm doing now. And rather than Ruffian, which was meant to be the new chapter, the beginning of the new chapter, I realized that Down in Paris is the bridge between that and this. And it's turned out to be exactly the thing, the right thing that was meant to be made. And I just feel that things are good. Things are as they're meant to be.
I was particularly impressed with the cinematography in the streets at night.
Yeah.
And my husband told me to ask you this question. What were your lighting setups?
To be honest, just globally, the film, I mean, whether it's you can see it or not, I mean, all my films, I'm not produced, so they're made with sort of minimum budgets, a lot of energy, a lot of love. So lighting, obviously there's lighting, but the lighting budget is not huge. We don't have major access to major lighting. So generally speaking, obviously in the scenes, they were all lit, but in the night scenes, actually in the night scenes in the film, like with the child, or yeah, they were lit, but it was really was bare minimum. There are a lot of the scenes where they're just literally images of Paris. There were, I don't think there was hardly any lighting whatsoever apart from the night lights of Paris. In the scenes by the river, or any scenes that happen outside, I mean, I can't even remember we had a few, I mean, we had some lights, but it was just, it's nowhere near probably what you could imagine. I mean, we were really relying on lights of the city, and we were setting up certain scenes in relation to the light, if you like, as well. So it depends really. But the lighting budget was, everything was minimal. I mean, everything was minimal, but the thing is, the money is minimal, but the energy and the love and the talent is high.
Right.
So as long as, you know, as long as you have a group of people together that want to work, that believe in the project, as you know, as have done so many cineasts in the past. If you look at Derek Jarman or Fassbinder or Pasolini, and I'm sure there's a whole range in the USA of directors that, you know, even from people like Todd Varro or whoever they may be, they have their own cinematographic family, and they don't have major budgets, but they have people around them and they have the experience in order to create with what you have. So that's the case with the lights, and it's the case with the whole movie. It's sort of, making the best of what you have. And as we all know, which is a bit of a cliche, that it can make for exciting, new, beautiful work because you're creating from a difficult place, you know. However, one doesn't always want to continue like that for the rest of your life. It will be nice to have some budgets once in a while. But however, the lighting was minimum, and we were making best of, you know, what we
Make do with what you have. Necessity is the mother of invention.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
I'm curious about your shooting timeline. I feel like I saw something in the credits about COVID. So when did you shoot in relation to the pandemic?
Yes, actually, yeah, I'd forgotten about that, but now you mention it, it's all flooding back. We shot during the second lockdown in France.
Which was when?
When was that? I think it was last October. So the streets were basically empty, which you can see. There's no one around because everyone was in the apartments because nobody could go out because of lockdown. Everyone was, they somehow, it's called Paris Cinema. They deal with all the permits, everything else, because obviously the police see us and we're in a second, we're you know, not in jail, but you know, you're not allowed to film. And because there's nobody on the streets, we stood out like a sore thumb. So we got permission by Paris Cinema to film. I was quite surprised that they gave us permission, but they did. But it was easier than I thought it would be, but it was complicated. I mean, we nearly cancelled the shoot at least 3 or 4 times because of COVID, because people dropped with COVID. I mean, it was complicated. We had a nurse, my ex is a nurse, another ex is a nurse. So he was doing the COVID sort of, you know, nursey thing. And obviously we took the precautions. We took
the COVID nursey thing. I love it.
We took precautions as we should, you know, and we weren't a huge team, so it was much easier to deal with. But we nearly cancelled 3 times. It was tough, but at the same time, I mean, you can imagine it was complicated. It was complicated, and the sound guy dropped out at the beginning because he was terrified about the COVID, which is totally understandable. But then we had to cancel the shoot the next day because we no longer had a sound guy. But through all the problems, it still remains one of the easiest shoots, and it should have been on paper one of the most complicated things to do. But it's just, life was like, this is right. And
so was there a concentrated period of shooting, or because of COVID, it was like, all right, we're going to shoot a couple of weeks now and then we'll come back?
No, we shot, I think it was about 3 weeks, maybe 3 and a bit more solid.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, we shot, because then the dream sequence was shot in another period. So that was a couple of days. And then we shot, after that, the scenes of Paris with nobody in, like the scenes where it's just Paris, or, you know, as its own sort of character with nobody else related to the film. And we shot them on another day. So it probably worked out about a month in the end. But the main shoot was, say, 3 weeks, maybe a bit longer, solid during the lockdown. But at the same time, it was a gift because, I mean, we used to joke about it, and I'd say, look, I've hired Paris. It's cost me 50 million. The streets are empty. You know, I mean, we had Paris to ourselves. I mean, it was really freaky because you're like in the streets in the middle of a national lockdown. There's just you and your friends. It was sort of a crazy time, you know, and it still is. I mean, we're all living through it in our own way right now. But to have shot during the lockdown, it was also being aware of, this is actually an historic moment in time, and we're making a fucking movie, you know what I mean?
In the middle of it.
So it was exciting and scary because obviously we had to think about, you know, people being protected and that we take the right precautions. And it wasn't just, you know, oh, we don't care. It wasn't that. It was being careful, which is why we nearly kept. I mean, I was ready just to lose everything. One of the guys in the sex scene called me the next day after the sex scene. So I've been kissing him and doing all the scene. And he said he's got COVID.
Oh, geez.
So I was like, we were shooting the opening scene in the studio. And I looked at my phone and we had sort of a couple of hours to go. And I just saw I'd got COVID.
Oh my
And my
God.
heart just sank. And I'd not said anything to anyone. I just looked around and I was like, I mean, I would never have done this, but you just in that second, you think, should I say something? What if I didn't say anything? Obviously, you would never do that. But that in that second of you're going to lose everything, like all the money, all the work, or it's just going to go in the bin. So I was like, and obviously I announced it straight away. And I think we just wrapped up what we were doing. And then we had to wait a bit. And I think we decided to shoot the next day because there was only a few of us. No, did we not? No, we all got tested. I got tested and I was like, okay, so if I'm positive, then we just have to stop. And that was also the disadvantage of being the director, producer, and all the rest. If
you're out, the thing stops.
The thing stops. So I got tested, and God was with us, or whatever, life force, or whatever you want to call it, but or luck. But I was negative, and I remained negative. I actually was in a festival at the very beginning of COVID in Bilbao in Spain. I was presenting a film, and on the way back in the plane, I got COVID. And I was really ill for about a week. I couldn't actually get out of bed, which has never happened to me. But it was at the time before the masks and all that. So I didn't even think it was COVID. I was just like, I'm just ill. I went to see the doctor. Turns out I had COVID. And because I got it way back then, at the time, I was like, this is the worst thing that could happen. But at the time, a year and a half later, while we were shooting the movie, I had all these antibodies.
Wow.
So I'd been in touch with all these people and obviously got tested, and you have to wait a few days and all the rest of it. And each time I was negative because I'd had it. So I don't know. There were so many little stories like that, as if like, this is why I feel like with a project, I don't know whether you find this yourself, if it's right and if you're really in tune with what you're doing and you're doing what you're meant to be doing, life just helps you along. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean, it just somehow.
But there is a momentum.
It works out. There's a momentum.
You're in the stream.
Absolutely.
The stream's telling you where to go. Well, as much as I would like to keep discussing cinema with you all day long, I think in the interest of time, we're going to have to start wrapping up. I just have two questions left, and we'll try to get through them as quickly as we can. If we can all look at the color blue and see something different. You see blue, maybe you think sky. I see blue, maybe I think blueberries. A lot of people are going to see your film, and a lot of people are going to have different takeaways from it. What do you hope people take away from your film?
Oh gosh. So that's something I've never ever thought about before. What do I hope that they would take away from it? Well, to be honest, I think I would hope that, I mean, this probably could sound cheesy, and I'm just, this is the first time I've ever actually spoke about the movie. So it's virgin territory, as I said earlier. But I would hope that it would somehow communicate some sort of positivity about life, about people. And I would hope there would be some feeling of sort of love and joy and sort of a relating to the sort of crossroads, where whatever background, whatever age, whatever, and we all go through hard times, and we all suffer death of family and loved ones, and especially in this time with COVID and everything. And funnily enough, the film deals with that at the time when the whole world was dealing with that. And I hope somehow it conveys some sort of positivity and love towards each other, because I think if I think about the film, okay, there's the guy in the kebab, which at the end goes a bit crazy. But apart from that, I think there is a sort of generosity that comes from the characters, whether it be the girl in the bar you know, is going through a tough time. There's a connection, whether it be the voyante, the tarot card reader, whether it be the girl that comes in the taxi to take me out of the difficult situation, whether it's me going towards the guy in the cafe, whether it's talking to the prostitute. There's a sort of love, there's a sort of generosity between the characters, and I hope somehow that is communicated. Sorry, I'm sort of gone around the houses to tell you that, but I'm thinking.
Well, I got that from your film.
Good.
If that's what you want people to get, that message is coming through. Anthony, it was such a pleasure to talk with you. I really appreciate having this conversation with you. I appreciate your work. Congratulations on your world premiere here.
Thank you for coming to see the movie. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Antony Hickling, writer, director, producer, actor, down in Paris, world premiere, out on film.
Take care. Have a lovely evening. Bye.